Hello and welcome to Connected episode 513. I am your keynote chairman, Stephen Hackett, and I am joined by annual chairman, Myke Hurley.
Hello, Stephen Hackett. It's a pleasure to be here and there. And it's even more of a pleasure, oh my God, to introduce Federico Viticci back to the show. I'm just so excited. I can't even speak. Hello, Federico.
Hello, I'm back. And if that's the effect I have on you, well, I'm very, very happy.
You always tie my tongue, Federico.
Yeah.
Everyone's back. I should say this episode is made possible by NetSuite, Fitbod, ExpressVPN, and Zojo. I missed that. We're really struggling today. But welcome back, Federico. And the pro show this week, which is the longer ad-free version of the show that we do every single time, you came with some notes from vacation. And it was it was a real roller coaster of highs and lows of technology in 2024.
Mostly lows.
Mostly lows.
Yeah, mostly lows. But some realizations on everyone's part. And it's 20 minutes today. So if you want a good chunky pro show.
20 minutes of epiphanies, really.
Yep.
Realizations and takes. Yeah. It was useful. It was a useful vacation to realize a few things. But yeah, it's good to be here. It's, I can't wait to do it, as somebody used to say.
Federico, how have you been celebrating Performa Month so far?
Mostly by being confused by the idea of Performa Month, because I feel like one day I was at the beach and I opened Mastodon, as you do, and I saw an announcement of Performa Month. And I had no idea that Steven was planning this. And I still I wanted to ask you, Steven, do you feel like maybe you're not enough of a busy person to also have this project?
I have been quite surprised at the length of these articles so far.
Follow up, Steven. Can I delegate some of my tasks to you if you're so inclined?
I can't do any more. I am very busy.
Well, it seems like you have time for Performa Month.
Yes, you definitely have an amount of time on your hands.
The trick of Performa Month was that I started in early July. I've been writing these for a while, and most of them are written now. So
this is big year of Luigi energy right now, which lasted for 2 years. Like Performa Month has lasted for 3 months.
It's always Performa Month somewhere, is what they say. When we first talked about this, Myke, you asked me if I'd bought any Performas. And at that point, I had bought one for a photo. I have now bought a second one. I bought a 631 CD on eBay.
Of course. You see, now I feel like if we go back to the last episode, you were very much like, no, I'm not going to do that. And now you've doubled your Performa.
This should be the last one. It's like the only one I didn't have in this body style.
Sure. This is like, that thing where it's like if you take a grain of rice and you double a grain of rice and you doubled your amount of rice for every piece, like for every square on a chessboard, that by the time you got to the end, it's more rice than there is on the planet. Are you familiar with this idea? I don't know if this is true, but this is what I imagine the Performa's situation is going to be like.
I've seen like on Instagram, because I'm too old for TikTok, was like, do you want this banana or should I double it and give it to the next person? And then 30 seconds later, someone said yes to 72 bananas. Maybe it's like that.
I have no idea what that is.
I am so lost right now. I have no idea what you guys are saying.
Is that just my
Starting
algorithm?
with the rice, now with the bananas. What? You guys okay? Are you okay?
The Instagram bananas are doubling, Federico. This is a big thing. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
But no. Okay, hear me out. So, Steven, help me understand something here.
Please, yes.
So, this project, does it mean that by the end of it, you'll come out a different person, somebody who actually falls in love with the Performa line?
I mean, we don't know. I have not written.
Do you feel that tingling sensation of
I do love
falling
beige.
in love with old computers despite their historical failures?
Yeah, I do love beige computers now. I have not written the conclusion to the series yet, but like there is something here. Like it wasn't. If the idea was to get Max into homes, like that was successful. It costs Apple dearly in terms of brand reputation, but do I love them? I guess time will tell.
Interesting.
Do you consider Performa Month a success so far?
Yes. The traffic has been way better than I thought it would be.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, no offense, but really?
Yeah.
Okay. No offense.
It's been great. And
Good.
And just the feedback. Like people are like, oh, that was my first computer. Or, it's just that part's been very cool.
The thing that I've been struck by when, I'm sorry to say, I've been skimming these articles. I have been skimming them, but like it's too much. It's more information than I want, and that's the thing that I'm surprised about. Is how much information you have, considering you weren't really around at the time. I can tell the amount of work that went into this. Yeah, but you weren't like you are now.
Sure.
You're a bit of mere babe.
Yeah.
And now you're an older babe.
Now.
And and you're writing about performers just like all babes would.
Yeah, it's my destiny.
I took a screenshot and I put it in our Notion document here, but people can go to the page, the website, which is called 512pixels.net, and they can read more about performers.
It's a web page.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm struggling so much today, but I am. But I was really struck by the beauty of the Macintosh Performa 600 logo, just like the Apple logo and then Macintosh Performa 600. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but serifs like this are having a moment right now, kind of stylistically, that's come back around again. And just like right now, all of the Macintosh Performa branding would be very successful in 2024, I feel like. That's all I have to say on that.
Well, I look forward to Cortex brand pivoting to serifs.
I actually spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks picking out serif. So
there you go.
It's going to happen.
Performa Month. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Listener Chris wrote in to Federico, and I sat on this because Federico was gone, but now you're back.
Yeah.
So I
thank you.
Clear it out. Like Federico, my favorite podcast app for many years was Castro. I stopped using it after their fiasco late last year and moved on, assuming it was dead. I've never really been happy with my substitute of Pocket Casts. I was surprised and really pleased to learn that Castro is back and better than ever. My sincere thanks to Federico for bringing this up recently. My life is better now.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, I know that I make people's lives better. So
all the time.
This doesn't surprise me.
Wow, you're so humble about it too, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It did lead me to thinking of like, this is the summer and getting into the fall. Like, there's new stock apps, and I kind of want to get everyone's temperature on like, what do we do with the apps that we use every day when there's new versions of Apple's apps? Like, where kind of are we in that cycle right now?
So personally, I've been doing this, like I've been thinking about this for two categories of apps. The first one was podcasts, and the other one was mail. And usually during the summer review season, I try to test all of the Apple defaults as much as possible. But specifically this time around, I was thinking about mail and podcasts because I was really dissatisfied with both of the apps that I was using before. And when WWDC came and I saw that huge update to Apple Mail, that made me really hopeful. Unfortunately, podcasts did not introduce the feature and the changes that I wanted to see. Apple Podcasts still doesn't have any sort of audio effects. And I dislike the way that the queue works in Apple Podcasts. So I knew that I couldn't use podcasts and that I had to keep using a third-party app. For Mail, I thought, I'm gonna get reacquainted with Mail because then I'm gonna get the upgrade in 18, later in the iOS 18 cycle with categorization, and that's gonna be incredible. Now, sadly, it seems like I won't be getting the Mail upgrade because that's based on Apple Intelligence.
Right.
And I will not have access to Apple Intelligence in Europe in the near future.
Unless you use the Macintosh.
Unless I use the Macintosh, I guess, which I don't.
Yep.
So,
It's half of your pad.
Well, yes.
What You have uh-oh. Well, hang on. What's going on there?
No, it's the iPad pad. He's just two iPads. He stuck them together.
Formulate your question carefully, Steven. What do you want to know?
Did you ditch the Mac part of the MacPad?
Well, no, it's not like I ditched it. It's just that since
When's the last time
you
used Mac OS?
I used it 2 days ago.
Okay.
Because I needed to export a save from the Dolphin emulator for a GameCube game.
As one does.
The only thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not using it a lot then.
No.
Is, I think what we can assess from this.
I am working on an article about this, but since I figured out how to record podcasts on the iPad Pro, as I'm doing right now, and as I've been doing for the past 2 months, my usage of macOS has gone way down again. Yeah. So anyway, for mail, I'm looking for an email client again. Because I had high hopes for Apple Mail. I thought, I'm going to use Apple Mail this summer. I just need to hold tight, with this version of Apple Mail, and then it's going to get so much better with Apple Intelligence. And then it wasn't, because I'm in Europe. So I'm once again using Spark right now, and I don't love it. But I need to use something that separates my emails into categories.
Which it does a good job of. Like, it does a very, very good job of.
And to be fair, I think, Myke, over the years, I think you've had plenty of good opinions. Some of them better than others.
That's fair.
But over the years, I have stuck with one particular opinion of yours as words to live by, so to speak. That all email apps are bad. And this is something I remind myself, like you saying this sentence many years ago. It's something that I think about to this day quite often. And I'm thinking about it this week a lot.
I have a 2024 version of that opinion.
Okay.
Which is all email apps are bad because email is bad. Like inherently, there's not so much you can do with your email app on top of what is already a bad thing, which is email. Like the system of email is just bad. So the bar is incredibly low. Yeah. The thing that I think is actually kind of heartbreaking about this story is in using 18.1, I provided that the categorization features are good enough, I think I might switch to Apple Mail. So I feel bad for you.
See, I have a different take on Apple Intelligence in Mail.
Okay.
I've been running 18.1. It's on my phone and my iPad, and I'm not that impressed with it. I don't feel like the summarization is all that useful. And in several cases, it's not as bad as the example you mentioned on Upgrade Myke, where it made up a word and beh, or Voorhees' example, where it kept calling him John Gruber, which is hysterical. But I don't feel like it's added a lot of value for me. And I'm a MimeStream user on the Mac, and I want to use MimeStream on iOS and iPadOS when it comes out. And I don't know if Apple Intelligence would be enough to sway me to stay in Apple Mail once that time comes.
I mean, you're looking at the previews in the inbox, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what I like specifically. That is the thing
yeah.
Like.
You can also get it at the top of a message that in the inbox is better.
They're different, which is wild. They're different summaries.
What's going on there?
They're completely different. I don't know why that is. I think potentially the ones in the inbox, they're trying to be more succinct. I think because you only have a couple of lines. But I like it. I get any kind of marketing messages that I get. It becomes easier to filter them. This one has a coupon code in it, and this one's just telling you about a thing. I think it's good. I like it. But I think it is only really a feature that appeals to a certain type of email user, and potentially we are different types of email users.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't need to talk about Apple Intelligence again.
Ever?
Well, not now, because Chris wanted to know about podcasts.
Oh,
also.
yeah. Sorry, Chris. We got distracted.
And so I talked about mail. When it comes to podcasts, I gave Overcast a try for the past couple of weeks. And so I went back to Castro in the end because of a very particular feature. I gotta say, I really like the audio quality of Overcast. I think it's the best one. The smart speed, the volume boost. I think it's, if you only judge the audio effects, it is the best version of those audio effects. It's the original one, and it's still the best one. But there's two things I dislike about Overcast, and that's why I went back to Castro. The first one is the now playing screen design. I like parts of it, and other parts of it I find kind of disorienting still. I feel like sometimes I'm double checking, like, where am I supposed to click again? Like, I don't know. Something about it is not sticking with me. But that's not a huge deal. What was a deal breaker for me is how the queue system works. And maybe Castro spoiled me, but here's how I like to listen to my podcasts. I like to see a list of all episodes. Mm-hmm. Like, here's all the latest episodes that have come out from the shows you're subscribed to. I like to tap on one and add it to my queue. And from that all episodes view, the episode can either go away, as it does with Castro, or it can stay there. But if it stays there, it needs to tell me, I need to have some kind of indicator that tells me, hey, this episode you have already queued. It's already somewhere in your queue. For the past 2 weeks with Overcast, I spent most of my time interacting with the app, looking at the all episodes view and thinking, have I queued this episode already or not? And I know you can tap it, and then you gotta click on the ellipsis button. And when you do, if the episode has already been queued, the add to queue button will be slightly grayed out. And, that's 3 taps to understand something that should be explained to the user at a glance. And it's not.
I would like to give you a tip. You don't have to use it if you've already decided. But in the new redesign, there is a new option called Move to Queue.
Where?
That does what you want.
Where?
So when you're on an episode and you hit like the 3 dot icon thing, there is add to and move to. If you select move to and then queue, the next time you press the 3 dot icon, it creates a shortcut button that's at the top of the context thing.
I don't know, but I really like how the queue works in Castro.
I mean, it's the originator of that style, and I do too. I have always preferred the way that the queue worked in Castro because just the UI was built around that system, and that's where I came to really love that system. But the general listening experience of Overcast I prefer, and so I've kind of just stuck with it.
So I completely missed the existence of this move to queue. But this is
it's new and didn't really get a lot of time people mentioned it.
So it's a new feature, right? It's like
with the redesign. It came with a redesign.
Huh. Interesting. Oh well, maybe then, Chris. Maybe I'll have to try Overcast again because I completely missed. I saw somewhere on Threads, somebody. This was like an algorithmically recommended post to me.
I think somebody saying this post.
Somebody saying, I found the new Overcast confusing. Maybe there should be some kind of walkthrough or like some kind of onboarding experience that explains how things moved, where things are. And I think that's probably a good idea. Like, I don't know, maybe there's that, what's it called on iOS, that framework, TipKit, that allows you to like introduce features to customers, like maybe even gradually, Like, hey, this thing is now here and this thing has moved there. Like, and I've seen it used in like those alerts used in a bunch of apps, and they're usually pretty effective. So yeah, maybe I'll have to try Overcast again, because thank you for the tip, Myke.
It's a Myke tip.
It's a Myke tip.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who doesn't use the queue? Like in Overcast, I have 4 playlists because 3 of them.
How do you even live? Like how?
So here's what I do. I have one playlist called Current. I also have downloaded in progress and starred because you can't remove his built-in playlist, which I find frustrating.
You can. Look at me. I'm just like, I'm the guy now. So if you go to settings, you go to settings, you go to customize home screen, and you can turn off downloaded in progress and starred.
Okay, well, I have that done now. So now I have one playlist called Current.
I'm the TipKit.
And
look at me.
All that does is pull in episodes that I have downloaded, which are all the new ones because it all just downloads now. So I just go in there.
What order do you listen to podcasts?
I just pick randomly. I just pick the one I want to listen to.
What?
I only have 4 episodes in here right now. It's no big deal.
What?
Yeah,
that's weird.
I'm on top of my stuff. What are y'all animals?
I know I have like a backlog of things, and I might want to listen to something from that at some point.
I rarely do that, and if I did, they would just be in the list, and I'd pick what I want. I don't need a queue.
Also, what I really like about Castro, in the queue, so you can either view your queue by episodes, or you can view your queue by shows. And that's an excellent way to see, for example, okay, let me see how many Besties episodes I have queued. That's very nice. So I don't know. But yeah, for me, it comes down, between Castro and Overcast. Right now,
I will say though, like I'm looking at Castro now. It feels old now. Like in the way that Overcast is feeling old to me. Like the app is very pretty, but it's
got some like iOS 7 in it in places.
It's of a time. And for me, I would like something in between visually of these two applications, because I feel like Overcast doesn't have as much personality as it used to, but Castro has too much for me.
Yeah, so podcasts.
Thanks, Chris. This episode of Connected is brought to you by NetSuite. Quick math: the less your business spends on operations, multiple systems, and delivering your product or service, the more margin you have and the more money you get to keep. But with higher expenses on materials, employees, distribution, and borrowing, everything costs more now. So to reduce cost and headaches, smart businesses are moving to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one platform and one source of truth. With NetSuite, you reduce IT costs because NetSuite lives in the cloud with no hardware required and is accessed from anywhere. You cut the cost of maintaining multiple systems because you have one unified business management suite. You improve efficiency by bringing all your major businesses' processes into one platform, slashing manual tasks and errors. Over 37,000 companies have already made the move, so do the math and see how you'll profit with NetSuite. Boosting business performance isn't necessarily a big, complicated thing. Take this idea of having multiple processes across multiple systems. You have people moving data in and out, and it can be really time-consuming and error-prone. And with NetSuite's tools, you can get rid of all that work. By popular demand, they've extended their one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks. So head on over to netsuite.com/connected. That's NETSUITE. netsuite.com/connected. Our thanks to NetSuite for their support of the show and all of Relay. Got some sad news. SuperDrive is gone.
That's pretty good.
That's the little thing.
That was good.
It's pretty good for a podcaster's mouth. Good job.
My tongue is no longer tied.
Yeah,
so
obviously.
I can make the bugle sound.
Yeah. I still have one, and I still use it. So it's a good accessory, Man, CDs and DVDs were a good format. I'm just gonna say it,
Okay. Courage.
You know, it's good for like it was a good for like remember the PlayStation 1 CDs and they were black. Those were cool.
Super cool.
Nothing will ever be cooler to me than the GameCube CDs, though.
The little ones.
The
little
mini.
ones.
What's that mini DVD?
I don't even know what format they were. They're just GameCube.
I think it was mini DVD. Yeah.
Did anybody else use them? I think it was like Nintendo and some promotional materials. Like that was the end of it.
Wasn't the mini DVD like a Panasonic format or something? And that's why Panasonic made a specific version of the GameCube called the IQ just for China. Am I making this up?
No, I believe you.
I don't think I am.
I believe you. It's very specific.
Nintendo.
You believe it?
Okay, I'm on the mini DVD Wikipedia page. It says Nintendo used a very similar disc-based format for the GameCube called the GameCube Game Disc DOL-006.
Of course.
It was their own medium.
That sounds about right. It's gonna look like it's a standard, but it won't be.
Yeah.
Love Nintendo.
But anyways, CDs and DVDs were cool. I have these memories, which I realize what I'm about to say is probably something very Italian, and I'm gonna try my best at contextualizing this and explaining this to you both, because I think you guys have no idea what I'm referring to. When I was a kid, so we're talking mid to late 90s. PlayStation 1 was huge in Italy, just and obviously elsewhere too. But PlayStation 1 piracy was also pretty wild. Everybody, including me, everybody had a modded PlayStation 1. Like everybody had one with the mod chip. And it was pretty like people who used to mod PlayStation 1s were pretty like even they weren't trying to make a secret about it. Like you could actually go to a store in the mid 90s and pay like pretty much in the open. Like it wasn't shady or anything. Like you would go to a store and pay and get a receipt for a modded PS1. And at the same time, obviously, mid to late 90s, music piracy was also pretty, remarkable in the sense that it was everywhere. And CDs were the format at the time. And so in Italy, we used to have these, especially in beach locations, these street sellers for pirated CDs for both music and PlayStation 1 video games. And I have these memories of these guys with these towels on the street or on the beach, absolutely filled with hundreds of pirated copies of music albums and PlayStation 1 games. And like, I think that's where my love for the CD format comes from. Also because those street sellers with those pirated PlayStation 1 games, I don't know, obviously, who was behind that whole operation, right? But those games, it was like the paradox of that was that you could more easily find a rare game as a pirated copy than by purchasing it via official channels. For example, I remember finding a Japanese copy of Dragon Ball Legends, which is a pretty forgotten game for the PlayStation 1, via one of these street sellers sometime in the late 90s. A game that I tried so many times via my video game store friend to acquire legally, and eventually I found a pirated copy just in the middle of the street for like €5 or something. So yeah, all this to say, I have many memories when it comes to CDs and DVDs, more so with CDs, I guess. And the SuperDrive is a good accessory that I used to digitize all of my legally purchased, eventually when I had money, music collection. And I'm sad that it's going away, but I understand why. But CDs are cool, man. And, it's a good format.
I have a SuperDrive. I've only ever used it to make CDs for family funerals.
Oh, jeez.
That's my addition.
Okay.
Because, like you need music at the funeral or whatever.
Sure.
And everyone looks to me and they're like, make a CD. I was like, oh, all right, I'll go buy a SuperDrive. I bought 2 SuperDrives for this purpose because one of them broke. So I am currently 1 for 1 on SuperDrives to CDs burned. I've made 2 CDs, 2 SuperDrives. So it's all going great over here. But now no longer. So hopefully no one in my family dies anymore because I can't make the CDs maybe. I probably have a SuperDrive somewhere, but I don't know where it is, but I'm just going to assume it's broken.
Okay. If you want to learn a lot about the SuperDrive history, I got a link for you in the show notes. Emergency Apple history blogging the other day.
Yeah. Oh, was this new? You hadn't already written this?
Nope.
Huh.
Banged it out the other day.
Oh, so you also have time for the SuperDrive.
You took a detour from Performa Month.
No, I don't like, and I don't really understand you. And you also have a family. You have 3 kids, a dog, and a cat, if I'm not mistaken,
and a fish,
and a snake,
and a fish, a bunch of projects. You just did a big show in London. You're doing a podcast. Like, can you teach me productivity?
Here's the thing.
Steven?
Here's what's happened to me this year. It's the first year in 3 years I didn't do a Kickstarter. And so
I thought you were gonna say it's cocaine. But
well,
okay, sure.
It's the first year I started doing drugs.
It's the first year of drugs.
And now I am just so productive.
No, but I that was a very busy project, and like right now I'd be like proofing the final thing, like getting ready to go to the printer, and like Kickstarter would be ending, and all that's just gone, and it's kind of nice now.
Cool.
I will say, Performa Month is not going to earn the revenue the calendar did. So
it's just not as lucrative.
If you want to sponsor Performa Month, get in touch.
What are your rates?
Whatever the calendar made, divided by 18 blog posts.
Wow. Performa Month. Those CPMs, man.
That's right. Beige is pretty close to gold, if you think about it.
That's true.
So your productivity secret is not doing Kickstarters?
It's not doing
anymore?
a Kickstarter. Yeah.
But what if I've never done Kickstarters?
Well, that's the thing. You got to
start. Yeah, you got to start.
Oh, okay.
And then stop.
Yeah. You've got to be super busy, like to a point where it's probably not healthy, and then stop that, and then it's fine.
Federico, just stop doing the iOS review.
Exactly.
That's your analog. If you just stop doing the iOS review, imagine how much time you'd have to write about performers.
Yeah. Well, that's covered. You could do something else.
No, about performers. I want performer versus performer, dueling performers.
Oh my God.
I want to see now.
I'm gonna write articles about computers that I don't even know what they are. And
Speaking of which,
hey, there he goes.
Tell us about the Lenovo ThinkBook Plus Hybrid.
Look, you gotta respect Lenovo. Okay, they're one of my favorite companies. The Lenovo Legion Go, it's one of my favorite gaming handhelds. But this device, the ThinkBook Plus Hybrid, so this is a China-only product for now, and I think
until you get one, and there'll be one in Italy.
It sounds ridiculous, but I think they're onto something. So the idea here is the following: imagine the MacPad, but as an official product. So you have an Android tablet. It's a 14-inch Android tablet that runs Android. You can use it as a tablet. It's pretty regular device. It's it's just an Android tablet. The secret is at the bottom of the tablet. The same accessory, the same computer also comes with a keyboard, but there's a catch. The keyboard is actually a computer. Just like, for example, my severed half of a MacBook is a computer. So when you dock the tablet on top of the keyboard, it changes the operating system. So when you dock it, now you're using Windows. Because in the keyboard, there's a whole PC. And that's the idea. So there's a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in the tablet, which is not the most recent chip for a tablet, but it's good enough, I guess. But the keyboard/laptop comes with a Meteor Lake Intel processor. And when you dock the tablet becomes a screen for the PC that's inside the keyboard. And I gotta say, I kind of love the idea, and I would pay serious money for an Apple version of this.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, Now, I don't know anybody who uses this product. It seems like it was just announced. It's not even clear if this thing will ever come to Europe or the United States. But I think it's something interesting, right? That you can, and it's what I've always wanted, and it's what we've been talking about for so long now. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you had a computer and you could rip off the display and use it as a tablet, and then when you dock it again, you're using the computer's operating system again? I still think the idea is cool and great, actually, but Apple seems to disagree, obviously, because they're making separate products. But still, in Windows land, in Windows and Android land, people are thinking about this, and companies are building these types of devices. Now, too bad that I really dislike Android and Windows. So there's that.
Yeah.
Mm.
It is really weird to have one computer that has two operating systems, and I'm assuming shares none of the same files.
It is, and imagine if Apple did it though. They could find ways to make the experience so much nicer.
Yes.
I would argue that if you just consider the nice factor, just how nice it is to use an operating system, iPadOS alone is nicer than Windows and Android combined. But still, the ThinkBoot Plus Hybrid, it's a real product from Lenovo, shipping at some point in China.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Fitbod. When you want to change your fitness level, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why I'm pleased to let you know that Fitbod is an easy and affordable way to build a fitness plan that's just for you. Everyone's fitness path is different, which is why Fitbod uses data to make sure they customize things exactly to suit you, adapting as you improve, so each workout will be challenging, pushing you to make the progress you want. Superior results are achieved when a workout program is tailored to your unique body, experience, environment, and goals, which are all stored in your Fitbod Gym profile. Fitbod tracks your muscle recovery so you can avoid burnout and keep up your momentum. And it builds your best possible workout by combining AI with exercise science. They've analyzed billions of data points that have been fine-tuned by certified personal trainers. And you can be sure you're learning new movements the right way thanks to more than 1,000 in-app demonstration videos. Muscles improve while working in concert with the entire system, so overworking some muscles while underworking others can negatively impact results. That's why Fitbod tracks muscle fatigue and recovery to design a well-balanced workout routine, which also means you'll never get bored, as the app mixes up your workouts with new exercises, rep schemes, supersets, and circuits. You can stay informed with your progress thanks to Fitbod's tracking charts, weekly reports, and sharing cards, letting you keep track of your achievements and personal bests, and then share them with friends and family. It also integrates with your Apple Watch, Wear OS smartwatches, and apps like Strava, Fitbit, and Apple Health. I mentioned the videos in the app that show you the workouts. That's one of my favorite parts about Fitbod. You just see the name of an exercise or maybe a photo. It doesn't tell the whole story. And with these videos, and many of them have multiple angles, you can really see what you're supposed to do. Personalized training of this quality can be expensive, but Fitbod is just $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year. But you can get 25% off your membership by signing up at fitbod.me/connected. So go there now and get your customized fitness plan at fitbod.me/connected. That's FITBOD. Fitbod.me/connected. Our thanks to Fitbod for the support of the show.
So I also wanted to talk about a major app update to one of my favorite iOS and iPadOS apps, which is Good Links. Now, I have been, just like I've been between podcast clients, I've also been in between Read Later apps. Lately, I've been in between this very app, Good Links, because of version 2 that just came out, and Readwise Reader.
Same actually.
Yeah. So Readwise Reader has the advantage of also being able to receive like your newsletters, for example, and as a pretty good text parser, and allows you to put together like these saved searches based on custom filters, which is pretty cool. But it also has a bunch of AI stuff that makes me a little, On the other hand, Good Links is an excellent native experience for Apple platforms. And version 2 just came out with a major addition, which is highlights and notes. So finally, in addition to saving your links for later in Good Links, and Good Links, I gotta say, I think of all the read later apps that I've tried, I think Good Links is on par with Safari Reader in terms of extracting text from web articles. The parser is better than Readwise Reader, is better than Matter is another app. Excellent text parser. Even lets you log into paywalled websites. So for example, my 6 or 7 websites, I can log into the Good Links settings to make sure that I can save their paywalled content. It's a really nice feature. And now you can highlight. As you read, you can save your highlights. You can choose between multiple colors. And even better than that, which is why I'm so stuck between choosing these 2 apps, those highlights you can automate with shortcuts. So you can export all of your highlights, your annotations. You can automate the entire process. I built a shortcut that allows me, for example, to take all my highlights from an article and put together different variables for like the article title, the name of the author, the URL, and basically go from an article that I'm reading and highlighting to a draft for a linked post on Mac Stories, with the highlights becoming like block quotes that I can use in the article. Things like that. This is what Good Links is excellent at. And also, it's very native and like it supports shortcuts, widgets in multiple sizes, dynamic type for custom text sizes. You can install custom fonts, like all these platform features. Good Links is usually excellent at respecting them and implementing them in a really nice way. So I don't know. I just wanted to point people to this update to Good Links 2, which also comes with a new business model. So there's a new subscription, but like I think I've seen this model before in the Do app. If you subscribe for a year of updates, you're gonna keep those features, which I think is a really reasonable way to go about this. More specifically, you can. And I'm just double checking the amount here. So the base app, the base application is like $10 on the App Store. You can purchase Good Links Premium for $5, and you will get updates for 1 year. And even if you cancel your subscription after that, you'll still retain all of the features released within that year that you paid for. And if you purchase Good Links in the 12 months prior to the version 2 release, you will get the highlighting and note-taking features for free. So I think it's a really nice way to go about this rollout. I have seen no complaints. Usually there's always like that guy, when we post something about Mac Stories, an app that is switching to a subscription, there is always like Frank or something that sends us an email. It's like, oh, this app is ruined. It's usually like Frank or some guy named Corey or something. It's like you know what I'm talking about. It's that person. It's like, oh, I can't believe your guys are supporting a developer with this ethics. It's like, okay, Corey, sure. But I've seen no Frank and no Corey this time, which is usually a pretty good sign. So
maybe Frank or Corey just don't have links.
Yeah. Maybe they're using Instapaper or something.
They don't have 6 or 7 links.
They don't have. Yeah. I used Good Links for a long, long time and switched to Readwise Reader, and partially because of the Books Poma, because there's an Android version as well, and I could save things to that, read it later on the e-ink thing. But I do miss Good Links, and I really Readwise Reader is good. But I don't use any of their RSS stuff. Like, it's also an RSS client. I don't use any of that stuff. And it's way more, shockingly more expensive than Good Links is. So I may end up going back and giving up on having my read it later stuff on the Books.
Can I say something that could potentially be interpreted the wrong way, but I actually mean no harm? Okay. So why, we were talking about podcasts, now we're talking about read later apps. Why do we have to be monogamists with the apps that we use? this is something that I think about a lot, actually. Like, oh, I need to use one. And so often I find myself thinking, oh, but I like to use this, but I also like to use that. And I feel like it's the time and the energy that I spend about thinking about what is the best and what is the one that I should use is actually time that could go into using both of them without thinking about it anymore. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess part of the thing is like if you're trying to use multiple, do you not end up just like duplicating everything? Like it becomes messy, right?
Do you?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't see. I don't know. You tell me.
No, you tell me. No, this is what I actually like RSS apps and email apps to a point, because there is a service that you authenticate with the application. And so like what I can try as many RSS apps as I want and I stay in sync, right? Like that's the benefit of that kind of underlying system that I like for trying out new applications. Like, for example, trying out a new to-do app is complicated. However, what I will say, I am a person, I use like 4 to-do apps. So like actively use them all and I'm happy. So like,
you are polyamorous with your apps.
But people have made fun of me for years, Federico, I think including you, when we've done our roasts about why do you use so many apps with check marks on
Hey,
them.
look, I'm a change person.
You know what? That's the growth element, right?
Yeah. It's one of my many qualities, as we have established. Or at least I have.
Stephen, thoughts on monogamy?
Yeah, I mean,
do you have them?
Generally in favor. So like with good links, I jumped through Raindrop because I wanted my archive of like 14,000 links in Readwise Reader, like in the archive. Boy, it was real unhappy about importing those, but it eventually did it. So there is a cost to some of these things, you know?
There is a cost.
Yes, there is a cost. That's for sure. And I think like also the argument could be, well, it's easy for you to say that you want to use multiple services because you have maybe the disposable income to subscribe to multiple services, and I totally get that. Like the financial argument is probably the strongest argument in favor of, well, you got to pick one, because I cannot pay for, say, both Apple Music and Spotify, or I cannot pay for both Readwise and Raindrop. So that I totally get if that's the point. But if, saying, well, I don't mind spending $10 on this and $10 on that, because I spend that money on, I don't know, coffee or Starbucks or whatever anyway, then I think I don't know, I am thinking about this topic of, in our community specifically, we tend to gravitate toward picking one app and one device.
Yeah.
Whereas that's something that doesn't necessarily happen in other communities, like, for example, video games.
Correct.
Just one that comes to mind. But specifically for the Apple community, I think there's this, I don't know, maybe it's a Steve Jobs thing or something. There's this heritage of, well, you have to use one device and one app to rule them all. And I don't know, maybe there's room for more flexibility there. The thing that made me think about this was actually the Journal app. Because of the suggestions coming from multiple data sources. And now actually in iOS 18, Journal can gather those media suggestions from like different podcast apps and different music apps.
Oh, good. I didn't know that. That passed me by, and that's really good news. It should have been doing that for a long time, so I'm happy that it can do that now.
And so that idea of like, here you have one single quote-unquote database, Journal, that can gather those recommendations from like multiple places, I think it's an interesting idea. But I don't know. Good links too. It's a great update and you should go check it out, especially because of the highlights. And if you're a shortcuts person, because of shortcuts.
According to Mark Gurman, Apple is looking to develop a plastic based Apple Watch SE that is, quote, more kid friendly with potentially, quote, a better array of colors. This is an interesting article about this from Wes Davies on The Verge, and Wes is talking about like, oh, maybe this could be just a more fun Apple Watch to wear, but if you like the things that are most recent, you know, it's still going to be an SE, so it's going to be held back from whatever other updates there are to the Apple Watch line. But I think, Stephen, you put this in the show notes, and I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted to talk about this, but I actually saw it and was thinking, for you, as a dad of teenagers as well, especially, what do you think about the Apple Watch as a device for kids? Like, do you, and I know we're touching the third rail of podcasting now, which is talking about parenting. So I won't mind if you decide to ripcord and parachute right out of this conversation. But do you have any thoughts on this as like what you think of the Apple Watch as a device for kids, and or what you would want feature-wise the device to have to be a good device for kids?
I don't have any firsthand experience with the Apple Watch school time features, right? They rolled out a few years ago. I know Marco talked about it at length on ATP a couple of times, and it seemed pretty buggy. And now I think they just have like a dummy phone set up for their son's watch. Crazy. So I don't have experience with the software side of it, but from the hardware side of it, like if this makes the watch more durable, cheaper, and lighter weight, those are all three great things if you're going to put a watch on a kid, or even if you just want to buy a watch yourself. Like, I think what's most interesting about this rumor to me is not the kid angle, but it's the more diversification of the Apple Watch line in ways that we haven't seen before. You know, we have the SE, which diversifies and lowers the price, but to your point, Myke, it does that by cutting features and giving you old stuff. And this would probably still be true in this version, but it would be the first time they've moved downstream or down market in terms of the build and the materials, right? They've had ceramic, they've had titanium, they had actual literal gold in the beginning that people try to forget about, but they've never kind of gone the other way. And so, yeah, I think it would be great if you are putting an Apple Watch on a kid, but if you're not, you're just looking for like a more affordable watch that maybe is in fun colors, like if a boy can dream, then this is interesting to me through those lenses.
I can imagine the benefit, the thought of why an Apple Watch could be good for a kid, right? Because it's not a phone. If you don't want to give them a phone, but you can contact them, they can contact you, and Find My would work if it was cellular. But yeah, it's an interesting. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. The idea of see, here's my thing about this though. Like, it seems weird to me, like in a way, to be like, "Hey, we made this Apple Watch for kids." It's like, okay, like, thank you. It's expensive. Is there anything? Did you do anything other than make it out of plastic? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they do this, the price has to come down more. I mean, that is a huge knock against the SE, at least in its original design, is that it wasn't that much cheaper, right? Like they haven't really gone down to where
they brought it down a bit. Like it's $250 now.
Yeah,
I think when it started, it was $300.
Yeah, but like $199, $179. Like if they can get down there, I don't know if this is enough to do that. But boy, that's intriguing to a whole new section of potential buyers. And, you know, I love my Apple Watch Ultra, and I plan on going to the Ultra 3 this year. I'm on the original Ultra now. Like, if they made, like, fun color plastic watches, like, that's really interesting. Like, I think people would be intrigued by that.
I just found a whole page on Apple's website called Apple Watch for Your Kids.
Oh. Is it creepy?
It's actually quite attractive. Like they've used really good like illustration, and it's a very different illustration, but it's like talking about what the benefits are for them and for you. It's a pretty nice webpage. I would be really intrigued if people have set this up, like what they like or don't like about it. Like,
let us know in the feedback form if you've gone down this road. I'll say in our household, Both my high schoolers have iPhones now. Our daughter wears a Fitbit. And I talked to her. I was like, if you want an Apple Watch, like, because she is running track and is, doing soccer, like lots of stuff. And she wanted it for the workout tracking and athletic stuff. She didn't care about the notifications or anything. In fact, I think last time I looked through it, she had a question about something, and I looked through the Fitbit app with her. Like, she has all the notifications off. I was like, I'm so proud of you. You don't need notifications on your wrist. But she wanted a Fitbit in part because it was more durable and cheaper, and it was a gift, but she was like, I don't just spend that kind of money. And she liked that the Fitbit was smaller and lighter and seemingly more resilient to damage.
Does it have a screen?
It has a screen. So I was trying to look on the Fitbit website. She has it's not one of the Apple Watch. It's the Fitbit Charge 6. Or maybe she has the 5. So like it has a screen, but it's in the band. It's not it doesn't look like a Apple Watch knockoff. Like,
I mean, this kind of looks like if the Nike Fuel Band continued.
Yes.
It would be this.
Oh man, rest in peace. That thing. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this all makes me want an Apple Watch with that. That's not a watch. Like, just give me a fitness band so I can wear a regular watch on my other wrist. But
never going to happen as much as we want it.
I don't think it will. Maybe they'll do a ring, and I'll be a ring person.
I don't know, man. Everyone that I've spoken to that has tried. Well, I was talking to Austin Evans.
So one person
about
who's not even a professional. Like, what?
He's someone who I spoke to. I've seen videos from other people, but he's someone who has been wearing these rings, and they're just not good. They're just really inaccurate, like horrifically inaccurate.
Yeah. I tried the Aura ring.
Did you?
Like a year ago? Yeah.
Huh.
It was weird.
Yeah, I don't like them. They're all too big. Like, they're just too big.
Chunky boys. I mean, my wedding band is tattooed on, so any rings are weird to me now, but
that's true.
True. Maybe some sort of implant, just straight in the chest.
Would you want a ring, Federico? A fitness ring?
I mean, I have an Apple Watch, and I got, I have actually nice looking rings to wear.
You do?
Yeah. No, so no. I mean, if it doesn't do anything better or different from the Apple Watch, I'm just going to keep my Apple Watch.
That's fair.
Yeah.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Watching Netflix without using ExpressVPN is like paying for a gym membership, but then only being allowed to use the treadmill. That's where ExpressVPN comes in. When you're using it, you can change your online location, which can change where streaming services think you're located. And they have almost 100 different server locations, so you can discover thousands of new shows to watch on Netflix, Disney+, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, and more. And there's loads of reasons to use ExpressVPN over other options. It's easy to use. Just fire up the app and click one button to change locations. Their blazing fast speeds mean you can stream in HD with zero buffering, and it's compatible with all your devices, phones, laptops, smart TVs, and more. And ExpressVPN has the added benefit of encrypting your data so you can browse the web more securely. That means that I can watch something like Sherlock on French Netflix or Friends, which is on Netflix in the UK right now, just by opening the app, selecting the right location, and tapping one button to connect, and then refreshing the page to get access. So make a smart choice. Stop paying full price for streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of their content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/connected. That's expressvpn.com/connected to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Our thanks to ExpressVPN for their support of the show and all of Relay. Beta check-in time. We got now 2 tracks. iOS 18 Beta 5 is out, and then
it happened.
18.1 has not received any updates, which is weird. We'll get to that. First, in 18.0 betas, Myke, you talked about in dark mode, you could have dark mode with light icons. And there was something that you wanted to do.
It's confusing. Let's do it again. Right.
Okay.
Originally, it did what I want, and then they changed it that if you wanted to use dark mode, it forced you to have dark icons. Now, actually, in beta 4 and of 18 and in beta 1 of 18.1, Pranjay wrote in to let us know, and I'm very happy about this. You can change this again. So you can have dark mode on or off on your devices. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to change whether you use light icons or dark icons. So I now have dark mode on with light icons. But what's really funny is whenever I search for an app, they're always in dark icons.
That seems like a bug.
Yes, it's definitely a bug, but it's just funny to me. But yeah, so I am happy about that now. Widgets by default show dark, but I can get by with that. The icons are more important to me because by and large, I don't like Apple's dark icons. And so, and also that some of the third-party apps that I've seen that have dark mode tinting on their icons, I don't like that either. I want to be able to just, like I've always done, choose my icons where I have choice. And so I prefer to have that rather than the system just making a blanket switch for me. So, but yes, so beta 5 is now out. There is no beta 2 of 18.1. So the bad scenario that we were talking about with John last week has happened. And so now I'm expecting Federico has done this. We'll get to that in a minute, maybe. If you're doing a review, you kind of have to go back now because we have no idea if or when. It is super weird to me that we have this. I'll actually, listener Myke wrote in to say, unless something changes around Apple Intelligence, wouldn't we be looking at a future where there is 2 versions of every release? Since AI is only supported on the newer phones, wouldn't it be true until they drop support for the other phones? And this is an interesting question, but I think the answer to this is no. This scenario where we have this 18.1 beta is just because they are trying to get these features ready for October and they want more time with it. There are untold amount of feature flags that are turned on and off in, like say for iPad OS, right? There are some devices that run iPad OS 18 beta 5 or whatever, but they don't have Stage Manager. They don't need separate versions of iOS for that to occur. So like going into the future, when it comes to iOS 19, they're not going to need to have 2 versions of 19, one that has Apple Intelligence and one that doesn't, because they're just able to, as we spoke about, as we assumed, and is the case with Federico, they just lock him out of being able to get those features.
Yeah.
But it's still technically in the operating system. He just can't turn them on. So I don't think that this will be a thing that we get forever.
Yeah.
But it is super strange to have currently 2 versions of the same operating system on different betas concurrently. And that now the features have diverged, and I guess it is not clear now to understand when those features will merge again.
Right.
Fully.
Right. Like, we're going to talk about the photos changes in a minute. Those are in 18.0 beta 5, not in 18.1. There's also bugs in 18.0 and 18.1 that are different. It's very strange. And so right now, I have one phone on 18.0 beta 5 and my carry phone's on 18.1. And it's a mess. I really thought 18.1 would be in lockstep with the changes in 18.0. It's just plus Apple Intelligence thrown in on top, but it doesn't seem to be what they're doing. At least of this recording. Maybe in a couple of days we'll know more, but it's weird for now. Federico, can you tell us about those photo changes?
Yeah, so I was really surprised by this. We spoke about the photos redesign before and how after an initial shock, we kind of, especially Myke and I, we really liked where Apple was going, with the sort of half view of your recent photos and then the collections below and the customization and the carousel at the top that allowed you to pin different collections and swipe between them in the carousel. Well, so the carousel is gone. And that's the thing that makes me really sad, because it was probably my favorite feature of the redesign, and now it's just been removed.
I'm happy that at least this was kind of like a good news, bad news thing for me. When I saw the headline, I just thought that they got rid of all of it, but they still have the split screen. Right?
Yeah, they do.
But there's just no carousel at the top. And while I did like that, the thing I liked most was just having the split screen where you've got you can get to your images if you want to, but you can also get to all the other stuff way faster. But it's a shame to me because I really liked how customizable everything was. And I don't really understand what this deals with, but they obviously have had enough feedback about it that they wanted to change it. So
yeah, and it seems like the grid now takes slightly more space than before on the page. And you have to wonder if they listen to this criticism enough. How far down can you push the grid until you revert to your original design? Right now, it still covers, I would say, 70% of the screen.
Yeah,
it used to be more like 60%. Like it used to be less. And now the grid is more prominent, but you can still see your pinned collections and your recent days. You just have to scroll a little bit more. Actually, no, you can see your recent days and your people and pets, and then if you want to see,
of course, you can change those around in order, right?
You can change those around.
Anything you want up there. I would be really surprised if there was any more significant changes here. I feel it's just kind of like they've made this change, and now they'll push this. This will be it. Now this will be it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what they've done with photos. I continue to be a fan of the new design, and especially the recent days is really the thing that does it for me. The categorization of photos by day.
Yeah, it is good.
While removing, like, although it doesn't always do a perfect job, and this is probably because like my phone is indexing everything again, because I had to downgrade, which was a horrific experience that I don't wish on anybody. But still, so for example, right now, my recent days, it's not doing the best job because it's showing me a screenshot, for example, under yesterday. And I bet it'll soon be gone as soon as the more indexing is done on device. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I think this is the version of photos that is shipping, and I continue to be a fan, despite the fact that I really like the carousel and swiping from my recent photos to my favorites, and now that's no longer possible, but maybe someday it'll come back.
And then there's a new feature in Beta 5 called, what is it, Distraction Control?
Distraction
Control.
Safari? Yeah.
What is this? Can you explain this feature? And so I've also seen people refer to this as like a surprise. Has this not been mentioned before now?
It was rumored that Apple was gonna work on a way to let you remove like ads and other distracting elements from websites.
You've helped me because I was reading a Macrumors article, which I'll put in the show notes. They got a video too that shows how it works, and they're like, "This is a surprise feature," and I was like, but I knew about this. And I was looking through Apple's like preview and couldn't find anything. But that you've now reminded me what I knew, which was the rumor.
Yeah. So the idea is that you have this feature on the Mac, iOS, and iPadOS to hide distracting items, such as Apple mentions like sign-in banners or content overlays. Like, I don't know, the boxes that get you to sign up for a newsletter, for example. You go to the page menu, the page menu being like the place where everything is like stuffed into now.
Like Reader, where Reader
like
is.
Reader, website settings, like all that. It's called the page menu. So you go there, you tap on hide distracting elements, and the first time you do it, the system tells you that it's not like a permanent ad removal. So this is the thing that Apple is doing. Like, they tell you this is not a way to permanently remove ads or other areas that frequently change content. Apple is saying that basically this is a way for you to hide static elements that you just don't like on websites. But if those elements change on a regular basis, they're still going to show them to you. So this is Apple basically trying to circumvent the discussion regarding, well, do you hate web publishers now because you get people to hide advertisements and banners from websites, therefore helping people, not seeing the ads and those publishers suffering because of the feature that you have built in the browser used by hundreds of millions of people. Like they're trying to sidestep that controversy by saying, well, we don't block ads. We just let you hide distracting elements that don't change often. But if they do, we're going to show them to you because maybe it's an ad and the publisher needs to make money. They're saying we don't want to be in any capacity. We don't want to be in this business of content blocking. We just want to make you have a nicer, more pleasant experience with Safari by hiding things you dislike, as long as they don't change on a regular basis. Now, I think it's a clever approach to sidestep that controversy, but I still have concerns because, like, a site like Mac Stories, for example, or Daring Fireball for that matter, we have a single ad that changes usually on a weekly basis. Now, if you try now and you hide that ad, that's gone forever. Like, if you refresh the page, it's gone. That's because it's not a Google ad that changes, on every page reload or every day, or I don't even know how Google ads work these days, honestly. You are permanently hiding a source of income for us.
What if you change the ad banner though? What happens then? Do you know?
Well, I guess we'll find out on Monday.
Oh,
right?
Okay. I guess you don't know because you haven't done it yet. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Mostly, and this is like my sentiment with everything on iOS, I am very ambivalent about iOS and iPadOS this year. And this is actually what I wrote in my introduction for the iOS review. I am, for the first time in really since I started doing this, I have never been so ambivalent about an annual iOS release. Mostly I'm thinking, did you have to do this? Like, was it absolutely necessary? Like, are people out there thinking, I'm using Apple's browser and it's not a pleasant experience? Or like, are they thinking it about the web? And maybe if they are having those thoughts, they also know that they can go to the App Store and download a third-party content blocker. Like, are there people out there saying, man, I wish that Apple let me hide dumb elements on web pages, via HTML because I dislike them? Like, it just seems, and especially with all these conversations that we're seeing this year with publishers, smaller publishers suffering because of changes to Google search and AI, read the room, like, was it necessary to ship this feature? Like, it just seems, as with many things on iOS these days, a little out of touch. But that's just my opinion. It's got a beautiful animation, I'll give you that. It's very nicely done.
It's out of touch with some people. But here's my thing. Like, I haven't used this feature, but I've seen videos of it, right? The thing that I find weird about it is, like, they didn't really commit. Like, I was on the web today and I was reading an article on Variety, right? And as I was scrolling, there were videos popping up. There were different weird banners made with AI art all over the place, and like, it was a not good experience to read the article. And so what I do in these scenarios is I just turn on reader mode and I read it in Reader. But like, if I was on this webpage and I was being frustrated by this, and I'll be like, great, I'm gonna deal with the distractions. All right, so now I've got to play this game for a minute where I tap on a bunch of areas of the article before I start reading. Like, I just don't understand this feature. And like, why would I not just use Reader instead? Like, why would I sit and like press all these buttons? And so it's what you're saying. Like, it's like they were like, oh, we're gonna give people a way to block ads, but we don't actually want to do that. So we're gonna do this. And so I'm kind of just like, so why did you do this then? Like, why did you do this? Because you kind of, it doesn't make I don't think this makes anybody happy, and I can't really imagine a lot of people using this feature, because you kind of have to set up this web page that you're going to read and then close the tab. Like, it's weird. It just seems very strange to me, as a feature to have, but maybe it is me that is out of touch and people want to play this like Safari hidden distractions game every time they go to a web page. But I know I certainly don't. And so I find other ways of getting around like content like this. And let me tell you, like, I feel for Steven in this scenario because these kinds of things, it's what generates so much support email to people.
Yeah.
Where they're like, hey, I can't see this thing. It's like, do you have a content blocker turned on? And like, and this is just another one of those of like, did you hide this element?
Yeah, it's 9 times out of 10 if someone's like, I can't sign up for membership, turn content blockers off on the website. And like we've done some things to try to work around that, but there's always something. I agree with you, Myke. It feels like Apple wanted to dip their toe in the water with the feature here, but also in my mind, like I'm not sure how it stacks up compared to like, well, they gave us years ago, they gave us, the ability to for developers to build and for users to use actual ad blockers in their browser, which are automatically removing these things as opposed to the user manually doing them. So I don't know if it's a huge death blow to online advertising, but it's definitely another step in that direction.
I don't think honestly, I don't think it's a blow at all. Like, but this is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like I don't really understand what this is for, really. Like, but it does lean into something that I have found frustrating about Apple over the years, maybe over like the last 5 years, of them feeling this need to get involved. So like this is like app tracking transparency, which is a thing that I still to this day do not agree with. I don't think that it is a well-designed or implemented system, and it hasn't actually done anything to help what Apple have set out to want to help, like realistically. Because if you see it as what it was, which was we want to get money out of Meta's just worked it out on their own. Like they're fine. And then stuff like if you use Apple's Mail app, it doesn't report open rates and information like that anymore to email publishers and like an email targeting platforms and stuff like that. It's like why did they need to do this? Like, what is the need to harm people who are trying to run their small businesses when like I think people don't. Who cares about if a brand that sends you an email knows you opened it? Or like just knows it was opened, not even who, but just like knows it was opened. Like who cares about that? Were people calling out for that? But no, Apple decided that they wanted to make that harder for people that work in like consumer brands. Like just a lot of this stuff. It's like I don't understand what they're going for here, and it's like this kind of like Caped Crusader kind of mentality where they're saving us from ourselves, which is also super funny. With the next thing that we're going to talk about.
There's some irony this and the next topic. It's also a feature that like doesn't work very well. Like someone in the Discord, she put in showing it working on Mac Stories, and it blocks the ad and the navigation. Like it doesn't see them as different elements. And I would imagine that the Mac Stories website is built well enough that it should know those are different things. Like that's kind of goofy. Not good.
Well, there's that.
Gotta redesign Mac Stories,
Well, that's a different topic, but yes.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Zojo. Zojo offers a powerful cross-platform development environment, perfect for Apple enthusiasts looking to create their own applications without the complexity of any other coding language. You can quickly create and release applications with it for Mac and iOS, which means you can reach millions of users using a single programming language with an intuitive IDE complete with drag and drop interface building capabilities. And Connected listeners, who we all know are passionate technology users, will love the intuitive interface and rapid development capabilities of Zojo. Zojo is a free download for development and testing, and Connected listeners can take 15% off any license with the coupon code CON24. That's all capital, CON24. That 15% discount is available through October of this year. Just go to Zojo, that's XOJO.com zojo.com/connected. That's 15% off any Zojo license with the coupon code CON24 through October 2024. The link, all the details are in the show notes, and our thanks to Zojo for their support of the show. We're going to finish today's episode talking about a ruling that came down in the U.S. this week that Google is a monopoly. This has been ongoing in the U.S. for a while. And, of course, we have a link to The Verge, but also to One True John's article talking about what this means and what comes next. The headline, I think, for people in our neck of the woods is that Google paying to be the default search engine in browsers is not going to be allowed, and that if this all is upheld, that's obviously going to have some pretty wild knock-on effects in the world. Apple being one of them, Mozilla being another. I think Mozilla is probably in real trouble because the Google deal to have Google in Firefox as the default browser is the majority of Mozilla's income, which is not great for them. But what do you all think about this, and what do we think it means for Apple's services business?
Well, this is the interesting thing, right? Like this, I'm intrigued to see. I mean, I've only focused on how this Google thing affects Apple, but I'm sure that there are much bigger effects because this is ruling that Google is using its power in a variety of ways, right? So it'll be intriguing to see as more people tease this apart, and also because the judge hasn't really, for what I've seen, the judge hasn't like said what's going to happen here. It's just like, all right, you are a monopoly, and now we're going to start unwinding some of this stuff. Obviously, after Google appeals it, blah, 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 blah. But this is super interesting, considering Apple and their services revenue and the previous earnings, where they're talking, services continues to grow, and it is like the shining beacon for Apple, and they keep talking about it, and they keep talking about it more, and like it's the biggest headline of their earnings report is that the services went up again, and they're so happy about it, and the growth's going to continue because we don't know, but I can't imagine that Apple's services growth was coming from Google. It felt like this was like a fixed thing that they would receive every year, maybe would go up every year. So unless Apple was doing some interesting accounting as to how they would kind of play that out through the year, I think what's going to happen is if this does finish, this does go away, Apple will have a year where they are down year over year, every single quarter, most likely, in their services revenue.
Yeah, it seems like Google's payments are maybe 20 to 25% of services revenue. So at Apple's growth pace, they would make up that difference, but it would be a blow in terms of this thing has grown for years and years and years, basically unstopped, and that would obviously take a step back. So it would hurt their services revenue.
It will crush their stock.
The stock, yes, it will. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is that, and that's the reason that the services thing existed in the first place. So it's going to be interesting for them to deal with that.
Wall Street, more like Fall Street, am I right?
Sure.
Especially at the moment.
Don't look at your 401k.
So let's just take as read that this will happen, right? That this services revenue from Google is going to go away. The question is, what does Apple do, right? And from what I can surmise and from what I've read, and John had a good piece about this on Mac Stories, they kind of have like three options. They either take a deal like this from someone else, which is hilarious to me that is still a thing that could happen, but someone else can still do this. Like if you're not considered powerful enough, these deals aren't necessarily illegal.
I don't think they would. I mean, Eddie Q said Microsoft could offer them the company and they still wouldn't make Bing the default. This is
one
savage.
Of the great quotes. So the full quote is, I don't believe there is a price in the world that Microsoft could offer us. They offered to give us Bing for free. They could give us the whole company. And this was from the discovery in this case. Like that is a thing that Eddie said in an email, I think. Just love Eddie Q, man. What a guy. So they could, right? They could take money from Bing. They could, if they wanted to. They could stick as is, where Google will be the default, because let's be realistic here. That is what users want. And 3, they could create their own search engine and their own ad business to make up this money. What do you think is the most likely? I'm interested what you two think. What do you think is the most likely scenario here in a world where Google's no longer paying Apple for the default?
They take the money from somebody else.
Oh, who?
I don't know. Okay, no, I'm gonna say it actually. They take the money from some kind of AI-based search engine, maybe even the OpenAI.
Well, they have one now, Search GPT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe
I wouldn't. I still think they take the money from somebody else, because they love money, and $20 billion going away from that services revenue, that's gonna sting, man.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna take the money from somebody else.
What I'll say is they do love money. I know it would be incredibly difficult, but they could do it themselves.
They have a lot of the parts now.
It would be hard because I actually think the hard part would be the ads part. But they have the Apple have the ability, if they wanted to do. Well, then are they not just going to get smashed in the same way that Google just did?
Probably, eventually,
right?
Eventually.
So they would set this thing up, and then everyone would be like, "You can't do that." And realistically, when you think about it, they probably shouldn't be able to do that, right? They're just like, "Hey, we're gonna make you use our search engine instead."
Yeah, probably a bad look. My guess is that if they don't make this money from Google anymore, is that they put up some sort of search engine ballot, like they would be probably forced to do at some point in the EU. And just let people pick. Or maybe, so Google's not the default anymore. I think if it's your default now, that continues. But in new installations, when you open Safari, you pick between Google and Bing and Perplexity and Search GPT or whatever else.
But they get no money, though.
But they get no money. So they just put Google on a list with a bunch of lesser companies and let the user decide.
And everyone picks Google.
That's the thing. And they talked about this on Dithering the other day. Part of antitrust, and I'm definitely not a lawyer, but part of it looks at consumer harm. And that is a hard thing for me to get my head around with this. Google is the best. They've been the best for a long time. Yes, they probably shouldn't pay Apple all that money. And definitely, yes, Apple shouldn't accept all that money. But if Google's not the default, most people are still going to pick it because it is the best and it's the most well-known. And I don't feel like I'm being harmed by any of this. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's naive. But I think Apple and Google are going to be just fine without this deal in place. I don't think Google's going to suddenly see a massive exodus of iPhone users going to their competitors because they're not paying for those users anymore.
No, the funny thing is Google wins big time. They don't have to give any of this money away, and they're not going to lose user share.
They're definitely not going to lose $20 billion a year worth of user share.
They're not going to lose user share. I mean, let's be realistic, right? Are you two looking to switch away from Google search anytime soon?
No.
And we're informed users, right? But the average user is not going to be like, oh man, let me go get my Kagi on. It's just not happening. People want to use Google, and there's a reason for this. And this is the funny thing of this situation has not caused user harm. It hasn't. But it shouldn't have existed. It's wrong, in my opinion, that Google can just do this. People should still be people can choose however they want, but this deal has felt gross to me. I mean, it's felt gross on Apple's side more than on Google's side, because there is this thing, the company that we previously spoke about, putting app tracking transparency in place, right? Or you shouldn't be tracked across apps, but we'll allow Google to give us money we will encourage you to use Google. And then, whatever happens out there on Google, I mean, I don't know, man. We can't control that. We don't know. That's always felt wrong. I don't like the fact that this happened, but I agree. I don't think that it is ever any ill effect to users because people want to use Google. And like, please, I beg you, do not send in feedback telling me that you use a separate search engine. Like, I'm sure you do, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, Google is used by everybody in the world, essentially. And like the amount of people that aren't using Google is so small compared to everybody that is. Like, it's the verb for searching on the web.
Yes.
Like, that only happens in very specific scenarios, and Google is one of the very small amount of companies that will ever exist that their product becomes a verb, and there's a very good reason for that.
Oh yeah, man, that's a huge deal, and I just don't think consumers are going to suddenly be wanting to move away from Google because this deal falls through. And I think people who are already using an alternative like DuckDuckGo, or what's the paid one that some people like?
Kagi. That's
Kagi.
Kagi. It's the one I just made a joke about. But
because
it's like, but it doesn't make, like, if you don't, why would you remember that brand? It's
exactly.
Like, exactly.
It's
just like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. And like, those people are already using those. I don't know. This is an interesting decision. I think it's going to take a long time to iron it all out. And I think the $20 billion Google pays Apple, while interesting to us, is, to a point Myke you made earlier, only a small part of this case. And there's going to be lots of other things that have to be sorted out because of this. But it's a big day for antitrust in the United States because at least the last couple of years, the U.S. government has actually not been very successful in these cases. And it's been a bit of a complaint about some of the staff and some of the leadership in these agencies that they haven't been effective. And now they have a win, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And it will be appealed, and it's going to take a long time. But this sort of opens a new chapter in tech antitrust in the United States that we really haven't seen here, right? There have been Congress people and everything that talked about, like, yes, we got to, regulate these companies. Some people a few years ago wanted to break up Amazon between this Amazon.com and Amazon Web Services and their own in-house brand. Like, lots of talk, but this is sort of the starting gun for what is potentially a very huge shakeup in consumer tech, at least in the U.S. But we just don't know how it's going to look.
There is one lasting effect to Apple, though, that will remain. It's going to be very interesting to see, right? So services, if services is growing, services will keep growing. Apple's profit is going to take a massive hit.
Yeah.
That won't recover. That's going to be a problem for them.
It does not take $20 billion a year to keep the default set in Safari, right? Like, that's just money they're being handed and putting in the bank. And
yes. And so that is probably going to be about 20 to 25% maybe of, I think, would be down if I'm doing my math correctly. Like in 2023, each, or like a quarter of profit for Apple is like $20 to $30 billion they make in per quarter in profit. And so like, it's basically wiping one of those out. And like, that's not going to just reappear, like, no matter what they do, because any scenario other than Federico's expected scenario of taking money from someone else, but they're not going to make that much money from someone else. No one else has got this kind of money except Microsoft, and unless Microsoft funnel that money through OpenAI into Apple, like, it's not going to happen. And I think Apple would be, it would be, I think it would be also be like a weird choice for Apple to take that money again. But I think as Federico pointed out, they love money. And so they would take it until they're told they can't take it anymore. But it was interesting. Up until we had this conversation, I was just like, oh, there's no way they're going to do this. But I forgot about Search GPT. That feels possible. It would be, it feels possible. Google, that could be an effect to Google. Because I think people wouldn't, over the next few years, I think people maybe wouldn't mind that. Especially if people had like ChatGPT in our iPhones, And
exactly.
So like, maybe they wouldn't mind so much about Search GPT if they're so happy to get ChatGPT responses. Like that is an interesting, that's interesting.
Time will tell. It could be a very interesting time in the Safari settings landscape. Who knew? Who knew it could be so much fun? I think that does it for this week. Federico, we're so glad you're back. Thank you for thank you for returning from the beach. Thank you for not staying.
I did it for you. That's specifically for you, Steven.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
So nice of you. If you want to find links to the stories we spoke about, head on over to the website, relay.fm/connected/513. There, you can submit feedback or follow-up. You can also become a member and get Connected Pro, the longer ad-free version of the show each and every week. Members of Relay shows also get access to a newsletter, some members-only podcast, and a really awesome Discord server. If you want to find more of us, we're around. Federico is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. I know y'all are hard at work on your coverage of the new OSs this fall. I will say I greatly enjoyed App Stories this weekend about the new version of watchOS, which I've paid no attention to. I was like, oh, it does all sorts of cool things. That's
the most
good.
Exciting OS release.
It may be. It could be. You can find Federico on social media as Viticci, Viticci, and Mastodon and Threads. Myke is the co-host of a bunch of other shows here on Relay. He's also, what your title at Cortex Brand? Chief Product Officer?
Creative Director.
Creative Director and Chief Product Officer.
No, to get rid of that. I don't know. Just Creative Director.
Boss.
I'm co-founder. Like I'm co-founder here with you.
iPad user. I had a phone call today and with a sponsor, and they needed to know my title, and I said co-founder. And she goes, I just don't know what that meant. Like,
okay,
I don't know what that means. They were a big company though, so maybe they think co-founder is like a hippie, or a hipster.
I mean, every company has a founder.
They thought you were like Steve Wozniak or something.
Yeah,
could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably know more about Performas than Woz does at this point, though. Anyways,
that wouldn't be surprising, though, would it?
I mean, it's not really a high bar,
Yeah.
At this point, does anybody know more about Performas than you?
Probably not.
Probably not.
You can,
except for the fine readers of 512pixels.net.
That's right.
They're going to get there. We're all coming along for the journey with you.
Please subscribe. You can find Myke as IMYKE on Mastodon and Threads. You can find my writing at 512pixels.net. We've been making fun of it all episode, apparently. And I also co-host Mac Power Users, which comes out on Sundays here on Relay. You can find me as ISMH86 on Threads and Mastodon. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for making the show possible: NetSuite, Fitbod, ExpressVPN, and Zojo. I'd like to thank our members who support us. Again, go check that out on the web. And until next time, guys, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.